Thanks for joining us again at Longwood Symphony. Today, I will be chatting with the Longwood Symphony trumpet player who has been in the orchestra for longer than very many, Dr. Leonard Zon. Hi, Len.
Hi, Bridget. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for doing this and sharing your story and your experience. We're excited.
No, my pleasure. Absolutely.
So give us a kind of overview. Who are you? What do you do? What's special about you?
Well, I'm Leonard Zon. I'm the director of the stem cell program at Boston Children's Hospital. I'm also a hematologist oncologist, and I take care of children who have blood diseases or cancer. I do mostly research in a laboratory, and we're pretty well known for doing zebrafish work. So we have models of zebrafish that reflect blood diseases or cancer, and we try to find new therapies to treat patients as a result of that work.
How is that work different now that you are presumably home most of the time?
Yeah, well, it's been extremely interesting. What happened is I run a laboratory with about 42 people, and that laboratory needs to function because we have animals, we have zebrafish that are involved in the work. So we were told to designate 3 people per lab. I actually have 2 laboratories, one at Children's Hospital and one at Harvard. And we designated 3 people, and those are the only people who could go in to work. And they were predominantly taking care of the zebrafish and making sure they're happy, that they're fed, that we're able to do our work. When it comes down to the laboratory, though, we have this group of people, and we've gotten very used to doing Zoom meetings. And you can imagine there's a lot of data that we produce, and there's a lot of data analysis that takes a lot of time. And this gives us an opportunity to really delve into data, see if it's right, see if it reflects human biology. And so a lot of that has actually been going on. And then I would say a number of the people in the lab are either writing papers or they're writing grants. And so we've been progressing on those fronts pretty well, actually. What's sad at some level is that we had work that was going on that was, headed towards sending in for a publication, and that work's been largely put on hold, and that's extremely frustrating for us and for whatever use that work has for medicine.
Yeah, that's got to be, you set your sights on finishing it up, and you've got a deadline date in mind, and now all that's kind of unknown.
Yeah, it's very tough. I think, one of the things that this whole crisis has created is, the amount of leadership it takes to run a laboratory is quite amazing. I have a big lab, but even I've heard from some of my colleagues that I've trained who have, smaller labs, but they're finding the same type of issues. Everybody is reacting to this in their own individual way. There are people who are very stable. There are people who are really upset by it. There are people who need to graduate, and so they want to get their work done. And so pretty much a lot of my time has been spent on making sure everybody's okay and in the right place so that they're able to succeed ultimately.
And on a normal day-to-day, are you seeing patients?
So I don't see very many patients. So most of my day is Zoom meetings with people in the lab or people associated with the lab or departments or faculty. And then I've also started 4 biotech companies. So some of those biotech companies also are meetings. So my typical day is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. On Zoom. I'm doing much more work than I normally do, and it's a lot. I had one call at Saturday night at 8:30. So these are the weekends now blur, and you can have meetings at any time. So I think for me, the amount of work has ramped up tremendously, and again, Zoom meetings all the way through about a variety of different topics.
Yeah, I think most people are spending their days on Zoom now. It's a new normal.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your zebrafish and how you use them as models for human biology?
Sure. So we've been doing zebrafish work since 1993. And we have probably the largest aquarium in the world with about 300,000 fish. These fish are very small. And so you can put about 70 of them into a little tank. And we have thousands and thousands of tanks and really raise all of our own fish. So the zebrafish is a fantastic model for studying disease. So first of all, the embryos are completely transparent. So you can see all of their organs just under a microscope. And you can see if there's a problem with the liver, a problem with the heartbeat, very, very neat stuff. And then we've made transparent adult fish. So we have adults that are also completely transparent and you can see all their organs. Each mother has about 300 babies every week. So when you think about genetics and how brothers and sisters relate to each other, you can have significant power. And if you think about doing cancer research where statistics matter and you have a certain number of fish in a tank that would get cancer, you're able to add a drug to the water and see if it prevents the disease. So the system has been very well worked out. It's a very well accepted model and really allows you to do some amazing biology. We've discovered 4 drugs that we have been able to take to the clinic and treat patients with as a result of our zebrafish work. We've discovered 5 human diseases where we had a family of fish that had a genetic disease that was having trouble making blood cells. And then we found humans who were mutated in the exact same gene as the fish. So it's been really, really rewarding. And I think we've had a fairly good impact on how people are thinking about blood diseases and cancer as a result of the zebrafish.
That's very impressive from my perspective, of course. So when you're not doing all of this incredible work, you are playing the trumpet. So when did you start playing the trumpet? Were you a student?
Yeah, so I was 9 years old when I started playing the trumpet. At the time, I thought it was cool to play the trumpet because you could play in the band or in the orchestra, or you could actually play in a rock band if you wanted to. So it seemed to be an instrument that would go in many directions. There was a very popular band called Chicago, and so I felt like playing the trumpet would be super cool. And so, yeah, I took lessons from age 9, got pretty proficient at it. I made district band and those types of things in high school. I went to college. I didn't really know if I would play the trumpet in college, but my university, Muhlenberg College, actually had a reasonable band. And in Allentown, Pennsylvania, there was a tremendous orchestral presence with many different community orchestras. And I ended up playing in about 3 or 4 orchestras during college, which included the Moravian College Orchestra, the Lehigh Valley Camerata Orchestra, and so that was super fun. I made Pennsylvania Intercollegiate Orchestra and Intercollegiate Band, so that was weekends away where you got famous conductors taking you through pieces. So, I really felt pretty good about my playing. I then went to Philadelphia for medical school, and it was, again, not sure whether I'd be able to continue that kind of way of approaching it. And luckily, my medical school had an orchestra, that actually worked with a choir. And so we did Verdi's Requiem, and eventually I got to solo with that orchestra. So that really helped, I would say, and I was able to bridge through. When I was in college, I should say, I had this experience when I got into medical school in August before my senior year. So I could basically take off my senior year, even though I went to classes. It didn't really matter how I was going to do. So I played my trumpet my senior year about 7 hours a day. And I felt like I had that experience of what it's like to be a professional trumpet player. A lot of people thought I should try to do that, but I knew there were a lot better people than me doing it. So I felt it was better to do medicine. It was a little bit safer. So then I went to medical school, then went to, came up here in Boston, and I was an intern, and I played and soloed with, it was called Little Orchestra of Cambridge. I don't know if that still exists, but it was a small group. It was very fun. And then in the end of my first year here in Boston in 1984, in June, Longwood Symphony was finally taking brass instruments. They had played one concert before, which was a string orchestra, but they finally were taking brass instruments for a hat shell concert. So the second concert was a hat shell concert, which included brass, and I was playing in it, and then I've been playing ever since. And it's been an incredible experience. Really love it. So, and I love the mission of the orchestra to help people as well as to play music. So it's been great.
Do you find that there are ways that being a musician helps you in your medical and scientific career?
I definitely think so. Many aspects come up. I would say there's definitely a connection of music and how the mind works and how you think about patients and medicine and art of healing and things like that. So I've always felt that it gives you kind of a relief or release. When you're seeing patients, I'm an oncologist, I see people with cancer. If you have a cancer patient, it's easy to get down about what they're going through. And so music is kind of my release at that level. And then I would say, just in terms of teaching and helping my students, a lot of the issues I go through with on trumpet playing come up with my students as they're trying to become good scientists. And the same principles of, the foundation, can you play scales and arpeggios? Well, you need a foundation in science. You need to know the knowledge. And then, are you inventive enough to do something musically? Are you inventive enough to do something scientifically, medically? So I feel the same principles come up and up. And I've been recently taking lessons from Steve Emery, who's used to play in the BSO, and a lot of the lessons that he's been teaching me, I've been kind of thinking about how they relate to my students also. So I think there's a lot of connections, and again, it helps.
Yeah, definitely. Are you listening to music right now? What's kind of on the top of your playlist?
Wow. Okay. Well, I've got so on the rock side, the Strokes just released their new album, so I thought that was super good album. Like, I think it could easily win an award. On the classical side, we listened to Beethoven's Ninth recently on Easter. I have been hoping we'll play Mahler at some point, so I've been listening to a number of Mahler symphonies. And then, I've also been listening to a lot of the videos that people are creating who are professional musicians, and they're amazing. The Boston Pops came out with Summon the Heroes. I thought that was super cool. Last night I watched two videos from the BSO, one by the tuba player who had a really great video on an audition piece and what he does to prepare for that. And then I watched the Tom Sider, the trumpet player, do his he's built his own room to be able to practice in within an apartment. And so I watched that also, and he talked about playing a Strauss piece. So that was very, very, very cool. So I really love the videos that people are producing. I even watched last night, there's one on ballerinas all through the world who have been doing a piece, which I thought was incredible also. So yeah, I like to listen to all those things.
Yeah, I think, silver linings as far as the current situation, definitely the way that we're getting to know the individuals, like the BSO musicians and people like you. And, this is, I think, a good opportunity for us to, take a dive in a little further, which is nice for us.
Yeah, I've enjoyed, I have Skype lessons on Saturday morning with Steve, and it's been great. I haven't had it's better if you're in person on some of it, but, it's nice to be able to just get up and play your horn with them. So it's fun.
Yeah. So you sent me a video of you playing Summon the Heroes, which Boston Pops put out a video of, but it's got an amazing trumpet solo.
Yeah, I thought it was incredible. I think Ralph was playing the trumpet solo in this thing, and I was showing it to my son and going like, "This is crazy good, you know, and they do an amazing job. So I figured, well, I better figure out how to play that piece. So I immediately downloaded the music and started to play. And you know, I think I got pretty well there. Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty darn good. So I felt good about it. So yeah, I think a neat piece, and certainly you know, Some of the Heroes is a great message. You know, my daughter is a third-year resident at the Brigham, and so she's kind of going through this right now. And you know, COVID patients are all over the place in the hospital. So you know, that type of exposure is intense. And so I think it's very important that we, you know, reflect on medicine as a field. And it's a noble field, but it, you know, you do put yourself out there at numerous times, and this is one of those times.
Yeah, I think we're definitely seeing who the heroes are right now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So is there anything else that you want to add, or any advice you want to give?
I don't know. I think that, you know, to me, on the music side, I would say, you know, having an outlet like music is a fantastic thing for an amateur. You know, you're able to enjoy your playing, you're able to interact with a great group like the Longwood Symphony. You know, I think the ability to do our concerts, which help people by raising money, I think that's also great. So, you know, to get yourself involved in a situation like that, or an organization like that, that really has had a big impact on my life. And I felt it's kept me balanced for a long time. It allowed me to do my job, but also allowed me to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think we forget sometimes that we're there to have fun too.
I agree.
Well, thank you so much, Len. It's been great talking to you. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
Bye.